I can't wait to talk to you about small businesses because I do a lot of work in that area. So you're doing two things simultaneously. It just feels like an amazing breakthrough what you've constructed there.
Dealing with enterprise companies has become extensively hard to do. What's happening in the United States, it's approximately $4 trillion of the annual spend of the United States is spent on healthcare.
Yes.
And so what I like about Lumity is, yes, you're right. We are agnostic to the carrier.
Well, hello, Mike Ehrle. How are you?
I'm well, Myrna. How are you?
Oh, it's so good to see you. And I can't wait to talk to you about small businesses because I do a lot of work in that area. And the challenges you're solving are so important. So I want to dive in. First, I want to say who you are and what you do. So you're doing two things simultaneously, two leading roles in advocacy for small business. The first one is managing partner of Lumity. Mm-hmm. And we'll talk about Lumity in a minute, but they're an HR benefits company. And it's so important to get the cost of healthcare and other benefits right for small businesses, to attract people, to retain people. But then also you're the founder and CEO of Finparency.
Yes.
So we'll chat about that in a minute. And that is just feels like an amazing breakthrough, what you've constructed there. But first with Lumity, you come from a background of years and years as an executive in enterprise-sized corporations, but you've turned your attention now to small business. Can you share with me kind of what that transition was like for you?
Yeah, it was a big change. So my entire career, not only working in very large organizations, but selling to and serving very large corporations was always where I concentrated. Mm-hmm. I had very little time or experience, frankly, in going to what you would consider down market. Mm-hmm. And I realized, and I've had a lot of passion for a shift in the last, arguably 5 years, maybe 3.
Very good.
Small businesses now are such a huge, they always have been, is such a huge portion of our economy.
Yes.
And small businesses are ramping up in ways that are just untold out there. And frankly, I think post-COVID, and Myrna, I don't know the politically correct way to say this, so I'll just say it. I think post-COVID, dealing with enterprise companies has become extensively hard to do. People aren't in one office, decisions take too long, where small businesses have newer challenges that need to be addressed at a faster pace, mm-hmm. and they can make decisions. So I've had this passion for small businesses in the last few years, running some of them, mm-hmm. Obviously founding one company, joining another, and there's just a lot of need in the United States for small business solutions.
You know, the agility that you have to have, the flexibility, kind of the rapid response time in a small business is definitely different from enterprise. There aren't 3 people that have to approve it and then it goes to legal. And in 9 weeks, you have an answer. Like there just isn't. You know, the business owners or the person who's leading the project makes the call and off you go. And it works or it doesn't work and then you pivot. And so it feels very American, the small business environment. You know, it's innovative. It's required to be in order to maintain a competitive edge. And it also contracts and grows based on what's happening economically. The first hit for any of that happens in small business. And so you have to really be on top of your P's and Q's. And they don't suffer fools gladly. Like, what do you mean you're going to charge me this much money for this? You know, where there isn't somebody, you know, in a different city in accounting who's just approving the PO, you know, it's like, are you kidding me? Why would I pay that for this when this guy's going to, no, I'm not paying that. So you're actually talking to the boots on the ground, kind of seat in the saddle person, like that's too much for that. I'm going to go find a different vendor. Pass or fail kind of with a small business.
I'm into that. Accountability at 100%. And mm-hmm. it's just oddly refreshing. It's mm-hmm. just refreshing. And I say that, by the way, Lumity, what I'm managing partner of, ultimately is owned by a multi-billion-dollar corporation called Alira. And it's a great place. So I'm not knocking it. It's just, I can see how we operate and the customers we serve, which are smaller, normally smaller to medium size. Normally, let's say 50 to 200 employees.
Exactly.
25 to 200. Right. And they're seeing all kinds of things, but they can move fast.
Yes.
And you said it. They do not tolerate fools. They do not. And they can make and vote with their feet very, very quickly. And I like that.
Well, and you are agnostic in Lumity, which I love, about carriers.
Mm-hmm.
So in my experience of owning a small businesses, we look at providing healthcare and those costs go up and the benefits go down. It's like, wait a minute, how does this work? And, extremely more expensive today than it was 10 years ago to provide healthcare. And, to say, well, I'm going to talk to the Prudential people, or I'm going to talk to Transamerica, or I'm going to talk to United Healthcare and see if I can do a little better. And it just has been a lose-lose solution for small businesses. But to be carrier agnostic means you're designing the right benefits, not the right provider for the small business and what their population actually needs for healthcare and other benefits. It's like the dialed in correct solution for small businesses.
Yes, small businesses, without going down rabbit holes on this for way too long, because I could, and I think I'll bore everybody to death if I did that. But what's happening in the United States, it's approximately 4 trillion of the annual spend of the United States is spent on healthcare.
Yes.
And it just is increasingly going up and up and up. We all hear it. We all know it. Right. It's a broken system.
Right.
I think everyone has good intentions, or the vast majority of people do, but it's the system we have.
Right.
And so the system we have needs to be managed in a particular way. And so what I like about Lumity is, yes, you're right. We are agnostic to the carrier. What that allows us to do is year over year, we can negotiate very, very quickly and in a tough way, so that our clients are not seeing these trend lines that are out of control. Now, sometimes you can't control it. Small businesses, there's costs there, and the claims are going up, and you have to address it. And carriers, they need to make up for that claim cost. So I understand it, but there's a moment to negotiate every single year. And the vast majority of digital brokers or employee benefit brokers out there actually don't take it to market every single year. So Lumity is as much technology solutions and making it easier on our customers' employees as it is a tough negotiator working with all the, excuse me when I say crime families within within medical and health.
You do feel held hostage.
Yeah, you do.
You do feel like you don't have options. You have to pay the street vig or something. I mean, it does feel like that.
Street vig is the right way to say it. I love that.
Yeah. Well, and also knowing that, okay, my person that's helping me provide this, or the company I'm working with, they're going to sharpen the razor blade and go to the street and say, I've got to find ways to take 10% of this cost out. Are you going to be helping me? Or do I talk to other people? You actually have an advocate who's going to keep you from being in that kind of hostage situation. So I love that for small businesses. And then let's talk a little bit about Finparency, the company you founded.
Mm-hmm.
We have a silver tsunami. And so I don't know if you want to speak to a little bit about what those crazy numbers are, but they talk in the investment world about how boomers have changed the whole investment dynamic. That, when there were little kids, all of a sudden Disney stock is big, and then when they're teenagers, all of a sudden people are selling more cars because the teenager needs a car. But following the demographic of the boomers, and now those boomers are retiring. And so if they're a small business owner, they're looking for an exit strategy or an end state. How did you come up with this idea about Finparency?
I was running a company for 3 years. It was an HR tech company. And literally over that 3-year period of time, 281 different private equity groups reached out to me. And that doesn't include the family offices and the investment bankers. And I remember keeping a list of every single one that reached out. And prior to that experience of running that company, I had worked for 2 other entities that were owned by private equity groups. One was a great fit. The other one was not a great fit.
Yes.
And I learned, if you own a business, you don't have that. Let's say less than 30 million. You don't have inside your organization an investment relations person or team.
No.
Here I was trying to operate a company. I'm keeping a list of 281 private equity groups and then all these family offices and investment bankers. Mm-hmm. And I came to find out that there's 4,500 private equity groups in the United States. There's 4,000 family offices. There's 600 investment bankers. And they're all calling on approximately 1 million to 3 million small businesses in every single vertical, regardless if it's a car wash or a technology company or
laundromats, everything.
Doesn't matter. And so here we are with all this stuff going on. And if you own, my favorite example is if you own a place called, let's say, Mike's Muffler Shops, and you've been operating the business for 25 and 30 years, and guess what? Your kids want to become Instagram influencers and not necessarily run Mike's Muffler Shops. You're seriously considering, what do you do? So Finparency is designed to use our AI engine, which we've used a lot of data to build, that matches up the right investors with the business owners. And it's designed in favor of the small business owner. Moreover, how to get that small business owner prepared and investment grade. And why
That
this
is really key. That is really key. Mm-hmm.
What we're seeing right now, and you touched on this with the silver tsunami in the United States, is the in generation 60-year-olds, 65-year-olds, 70-year-olds that own the Mike Muffler Shops of the world are just saying, I've saved enough from my income that I can rationalize not going to market, and I'll just close the doors in the business instead of going through a process.
Their retirement is not to sell, but to close.
To close. They don't want to deal with it. And so my argument is, and the reason why I created Finparency, and I'm working with a great team of folks that are doing it, and we're all doing it on the side of our desk. We all have full-time jobs. But the reason why we were so passionate about doing this is to solve this economic problem. And it's a big one. And the more companies I talk to and private equity groups that I talk to, the more they acknowledge this is huge and this is needed. So our MVP is ready, I hope, in late September, maybe October, and the full-fledged version January, February, and we're full speed ahead.
Well, one of the big challenges is that private equity world, they speak their own language, they write their own reports, their decision-making doesn't look at all like the decision-making of that multi-year, maybe multi-generation small business owner. It's like Chinese and Russian. They don't even speak the same language about expectations so getting someone, private equity ready, that is such a wonderful education that you're going to provide. And the advocacy of, look, you should be considering this as a buyout, as an exit. What does an end state look like? If you can sell into a company that's ready to buy your cash flow, or however the private equity company looks at it, this is a viable solution, and I can be the concierge, our AR tools and our team. We can match the right family office or the private equity group with the right small business owner, and then, help be the translator, the Google Translate between the two worlds about why this is a fit for each of you, why this marriage makes sense, kind of thing.
It's definitely a two-sided marketplace, probably a three-sided marketplace, because we can also get into the investment ecosystem of M&A lawyers and consultants and everything else. But, PE gets a bad rap. I have so many good friends that work at PE funds, and I think they're great people. I don't think they're all enemies. However, if you don't understand that world, it's very, very intimidating, and they speak their own language. You just nailed it. So if I own Mike's Muffler Shops, I'm probably a great operator of my business and the team that I run and the business that I built up. But all of a sudden, if you start talking to me about building out my data room and what I need in my data room and all the different plans and financial reports that better be in the right format or I'm going to get devalued, it's not only intimidating, it's such a turnoff that you rationalize, I don't want to do it.
It's kind of insulting.
I'm walking away.
It's like, I'm running a perfectly good business. Who are you to tell me from your spreadsheet that I'm not doing it right?
It can be insulting. It can be insulting.
It can be insulting.
It can. And those private equity groups, and the reason I think it's so confusing and intimidating, they have limited partners and they have requirements that they have to live up to, and they need to be able to justify why they did certain things. And so that's why all these reports and different things are required. Having something to get you through it all and get you prepared is huge. And that's what we're building out at Finparency.
Very good. Having that education happen and then doing the right matchmaking. So if the private equity group only wants to buy small businesses that can scale and be replicated, that can be franchise opportunities, then if your small business doesn't want to jump through that hoops, they shouldn't take that meeting. That's not what their exit looks like. So, and, I think in the different verticals, there are people who understand different kinds of businesses. And so that matchmaking and that advocacy is so important. Well, because you've come through to looking at small businesses, we hear in the news today, we have tariffs on China and, tariffs on our trade partners. And it's putting a few more shekels in the bucket for our trade deficits or whatever. And then Apple the other day said, we're going to put $100 million and we're going to put $2 billion, in these various states for this onshoring of manufacturing. But you don't hear any small business conversation in there. But we know it trickles down. So what are you seeing out there in the future now that your focus is on small business about the reshoring, the reinvestment in American manufacturing, in terms of the impact on small businesses?
Yeah, because of Lumity, I speak to a lot of business owners and a lot of operators in small and medium-sized businesses. And of course, what we're building at Finparency. And then I'm in several leadership groups. I live in Atlanta. I'm in several leadership groups of small business owners and operators and have a lot of exposure to those different individuals. And I think more than anything, what's frustrating about it, put the politics aside. Doesn't matter if you're a fan of the administration or not. Put that aside for a minute. What no one wants when they're operating a business is the unknown.
Yes.
And so it's refreshing to get some of these things nailed down. The deal recently cut with Japan, great. The deal with Vietnam, great. EU, great. England, great. Getting these things done is really, really important. If this is the path, we just need to know what it is. So speaking of those small businesses, often they don't know how to budget and plan for this. And it's not because it's their fault.
No.
And I'm speaking about
the world is changing.
The world is changing very, very fast, and it's always going to. This is just going to be the norm. The norm is it will change. But this particular change is really hard to plan for when you need to plan financially several months or years out. You can't. If you don't know if your cost inputs are going to be 50% higher or not, it makes it almost impossible to do. So that uncertainty is holding back a lot of people from making big decisions, including investors, by the way. They're sitting on loads of cash. These private equity groups are sitting on loads of cash. So trillions of dollars are on the sideline. And they'd love to deploy that money, but they don't know how because of a lot of the uncertainty, too. So, boy, I think maybe I'm just too optimistic of a person. I'm going to bet within the next 6 months, this thing opens up, and it's going to be very interesting to watch.
It does feel like we're kind of headed into an American renaissance. I was talking with someone the other day that is doing a lot of DoD contracts. That's his business. And I said, I feel like Elon's talk about building condos on Mars. We're in one of those Kennedy-esque space moments with the moon launch. It's like Americans are dreaming of big possibilities again. And I have to think the knock-on effects of that are positive for small businesses, for everyone.
I couldn't agree with you more. My family and I just took a big trip because my son's going to college on Tuesday. So this is his first freshman year. So we're in that big transition moment. So this has been a little bit of a summer of a couple family vacations. And one of them, we went to Europe. And we were in Paris. And prior to going, I've never been before. Prior to going, I was told all these people in Paris don't like Americans. I didn't have that experience once. And in fact, got together with two old contacts of mine that happen to live in Paris now and was really able to have a business conversation in Paris, even though it was a family vacation. And in fact, they are looking to the United States to have this renaissance. The world is concentrating on us right now. It's fascinating to watch. And I think the trickle effect of that is positive for everyone.
Yeah. I remember that movie, Will Smith, and we're being invaded by aliens or something. And Independence Day.
Independence Day.
And the British Armed Forces person says, "Where are the Yanks? Like, come on, where are the Yanks?" And then the Yanks show up and like, okay, now we're going to all come together and get things done. So I think there has been the question, where are the Yanks? And well, the Yanks are back. So, whatever it is, we seem to be refilling up the gasoline in the engine of innovation and productivity and manufacturing. And I think there's always an ebb and flow that happens. And, I think we're preparing for some boom times, including lots and lots of businesses that will be for sale with the silver tsunami. So, if people want that advocacy, or if we have a small business who said, could I have somebody fight for me, please, with my healthcare benefits? How did they get a hold of you?
Yeah, they can do so in a couple of different ways. And I wanted to ask you a question, too, because you experience this all the time. You just asked me the question of the exposure of small businesses. We both share the ability that we are on a little bit of the outside when we have these conversations with businesses. You're an executive leadership coach. Do you see the same thing when you're having these conversations and objectively providing some guidance to these individuals?
Executives, especially on the small business side, small business owners, they're used to needing to be flexible. They're used to having to pivot to make new decisions. And, when your cost of goods is unknown, that is a really difficult challenge, to put something on the shelf and know what price you're going to sell it at, to have any margin at all to pay the bills. So it has been a really difficult time, but having an outside pair of eyes come in and say, here's my view of the landscape, because it's what I do every day. And then looking at your patch of lawn right here that you're working on, think about this, maybe shift your perspective here. And it's just really helpful because all of us get involved in our day to day, and we kind of narrow our vision to what's on our desk or what's happening in our business. So having an outside perspective and your advocacy and education for people to say, private equity, a family office, there's opportunities that could make sense for you. Let me educate you about those in case you're a fit. And if I was in, private equity, and I wanted some really sweet plums of small businesses to buy, I would turn to you and say, what you got? Show me what's in your basket.
Those conversations have been happening. So as I've been talking to many different entities, they've been approaching me saying, help us on that front. So, and their business development teams need that help too. So,
well, and also to have someone do the translation. So because you have it feels sometimes predatory when you're talking to private equity, and we've seen the stories, and if it bleeds, it leads. So the stories are always the horror stories that you hear. You never hear and everything turned out fine stories. Those don't really make the rounds quite like the horror stories do. But, the translation of, the education, the advocacy for the small business owner, am I making the right choice, versus just closing and not having this hassle, or you finding a business broker to maybe find someone who wants to run 2 muffler shops or 3 pizza parlors or something like that. So yeah, this opportunity, private equity done well, is very clean. It's a win-win situation, but making it possible, with your financial transparency and Finparency, is a wonderful opportunity for small businesses.
Thank you for that. And to answer your other question, how to get a hold of me, probably the easiest way is LinkedIn. My crazy last name of Ehrle, you'll find me, pronounced early. So LinkedIn is the easiest. And of course, go visit our 2 websites, Lumity, LUMITY.com. Don't judge us on the website quality. It's getting completely revamped.
Okay.
And
the focus is on healthcare provision, not so much on the marketing. Yeah.
But it's coming. We're going to revamp it. And then Finparency.ai. And that right now is a holding page. This is a soon to come, but sign up and stay informed as we take these next couple big steps that are coming very fast.
I think there are some listeners that will know someone in the silver tsunami who probably didn't think about private equity. Would my business qualify? And they could reach out to you and find out.
They should sign up at Finparency.ai. All your information is safe. And if you put a comment out there, I can reach out to you.
Oh, perfect. Well, thanks so much. I'm really happy that you're bringing attention to small business, because it is the backbone of American ingenuity, and going to play a big part in the renaissance that seems to be unfolding for us. So
I'm encouraged by it. So thank you. And thank you, Myrna, for taking the time. This is a nice conversation.
Thanks, Mike. Okay. See you soon.
See you soon.